Hey guys, so first things first, it is Snowmageddon outside. We have definitely over a foot already and it is still coming down. So if you hear noise like snow plows, snow blowers, it's just snow everywhere. So apologies, but you know, I'm happily in my house and the lights are on, so that's what we got right now. Secondly, I am so excited to tell you about today's ARC. This is from an author that I love, but I didn't love the last book that they put out that I read. So I was a little bit nervous, but this was just like the softest, loveliest little like rendition of their writing style, and I can't wait to tell you about it. So the book in question is called The Redo List by Denise Williams, and this is the story of Willow and Deacon. Now, Willow has recently gone viral for all the worst reasons. She's in her 20s and she had been with her boyfriend for about 10 years. They started dating in high school and they have just been together basically forever, and she thought it was going to be forever. Unfortunately, her ex, now ex, Spencer, met someone else, decided to completely change it up, and broke up with her. And while he was in the process of completely destroying her heart, she also fell into a fountain, got very emotional. It ended up being filmed by someone and it became a viral video. So Willow has had her entire life in many ways destroyed. And so she has gone from Denver, where she was living, back to her brother's house in a small town in the Midwest. He is currently deployed and he needed somebody to watch his house and his dog, and conveniently Willow needed somewhere to run. Because her brother Cruz is deployed, he has asked his best friend, who lives in the same town and had been medically discharged from their unit, to watch out for Willow. This is Deacon, and he is currently at community college, kind of noodling around. Like I said, he was medically discharged for a tumor that appeared in his spine and kind of left him without the ability to walk for a while. But he is determined to get back up to physical standards to re-enlist. And so he's on his mission to kind of like get his life back on track. And even though there is a 10-year age difference between Willow and Deacon, they're both in a position where they are trying to essentially restart their lives. Willow, after a drunken night out, makes this list. She calls it her redo list, listing all of these firsts or special things that she did while she was dating her ex that she wants to redo to make new memories, essentially realizing that she's never had a chance to really be herself or do things by herself, make her own decisions. You know, she doesn't even wear shirts that are her favorite color because her ex told her that he didn't like them. And so she is on a mission to make new memories, make new experiences that aren't connected to him, and she asks Deacon to help her. And of course, while they start with things like brunch and learn to ride a bike, they also get, you know, because she makes this list while she's very drunk, a little bit sexy. Of course, this is her page 2, and once Deacon sees that, things start to happen. However, Willow's brother and Deacon's best friend, Cruz, has said, do not touch her. That's definitely something they're both going to follow. So this is my 4th Denise Williams book, and I really loved the first 2 that I read, which was How to Fail at Flirting and then also The Fastest Way to Fall. I did a full review of The Fastest Way to Fall here on the channel, and I think it's probably still my favorite one. The things about those 2 books that I really appreciated were just how much depth the characters and their family and their friends all get while having a really wonderful and believable relationship. In How to Fail at Flirting, the female main character in that one is dealing with the after effects of being psychologically abused by her ex-partner, and that is dealt with. And then in The Fastest Way to Fall, it deals with everything from eating disorders, drug use, the fitness industry, all of Denise's main characters are curvy African-American women like herself, and she's so good at connecting intersectional issues between those. And some of them are really weighty, like I said, psychological abuse, eating disorders. They're hefty. And while I'm only mentioning the female main characters here, she really does a great job of having well-rounded depth characters on both sides, like I said, not only of the romantic pairing, but the characters around them. In particular, for example, in Fastest Way to Fall, it's their family. Oh, just so well done. The book of Denise's that I read after that was Do You Take This Man? I also did a review of that on the channel. And the thing about Do You Take This Man is I thought it was fine. Like, it was a fine romance novel, but after the depth and I don't want to say seriousness, but kind of just the realness and depth to those first two novels, Do You Take This Man for me felt a little bit lighter, airier, and there's nothing wrong with that in a romance novel. I love plenty of romance novels like that, but considering why I really, really fell in love with Denise's writing, it just really wasn't on par for me. I think the really interesting thing about this book, The Redo List, is that it's an interesting little mix of the two. I wouldn't say that the issues, being discussed in this book are necessarily as weighty as her first two books, but they're very serious, they're very real, and they lead to a lot of really great discussions about, how do we become who we're meant to be? How do we know who we are? And how do you restart your life after this thing that you thought was going to be the rest of your life? For Willow, it's this relationship. For Deacon, it was his military career. And what do you do when that's already done, or it's over, or it's taken away from you? And you have to kind of rebuild who you thought you were. Which is why also, even though this is an age gap romance, for me, it felt more of a normal romance. I don't know. Sometimes in age gap relationships, they kind of make the age gap a super thing. And here, even though they do acknowledge it, they are definitely two people who are in similar stages in their life because of these restarts and redos that they need. And so they just kind of fit more seamlessly together. That's why I said up top that this book is a softer version of those first two Denise Williams books, because even though they kind of tackle these very serious topics and issues, like I said, Deacon had to relearn how to walk, right? There was some very tragic death of a parent in Willow and Cruz's life that has happened before the book starts. And so there are serious conversations, but it's a little bit lighter, a little bit funnier, a little bit airier. And this is kind of the mix of the two that really, I think, does it for me right now where I am, which is where I don't know if I necessarily want to read about eating disorders and drug use and also a romance right now, even if it's done in a very beautiful, tactful, loving way. But again, this book was just that level of depth that I love from Denise's writing, plus just a really, really sweet romance. Another thing that I really loved about this book is the way that it deals with the romance plotline. You know me, I'm always yelling about this, the third act breakup. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't, and people just kind of shoehorn it in there. And Denise doesn't take that route quite in the same way in this book, and instead keeps the plot feeling very natural to all of the characters involved, which was such a breath of fresh air. And because it was something that really had me worried, because so much about Deacon and Willow's relationship is that they have to be learning to trust each other and trust that person's gonna be there. And so to have a very traditional plot to this with the third act breakup would have just, I think, really wrecked the beautiful thing that they were building. And so I was just so happy and thrilled with the way that the plot still had drama in the end, but did not involve some unnecessary, I can't believe you never told me this or whatever. And just is two people who are committed to being with each other, even though, like I said, they are in this moment in their life where everything is new again and a little bit unstable and all of the options are open. And it's very important to both of them to find out who they are as people, but also like stepping forward into that future together. Would I say this is the perfect book? Not really. I do think that it would have been nicer to see Willow and Deacon having some more things in common. I really wasn't sure in terms of like hobbies or like things like that they really had in common, even if they both like just fit really well into like the philosophical place they were in each other's life. And also the book starts with this like viral meme thing of her becoming the drowning girl when she falls into the fountain. And in the opening scene is her getting recognized as a coffee shop and how like that's why she felt that she needed to run away to her brother's house. This just stops being a thing, like it disappears. And so then I was like, why was it there to begin with? But like all of my issues, they're fairly minimal, right? Because again, I think there's a lot of emotionality and heart at the center of this story that really just carried it through for me, and I really enjoyed it. I would say that this book is a great middle ground for people looking to get into Denise's work if you haven't already. If you were someone who liked Do You Take This Man, you may also really enjoy this one. But like I said, I have now enjoyed 3 of the 4. I haven't read everything that she's put out because I think she has at least 1 or 2 other books that I haven't read. But this was just such an exciting book for me to read because I felt like there were 2 that I liked, 1 that I didn't, and now this is like, you know, back on the upswing, and makes me even more excited to continue to recommend her books to everyone whenever they ask for a romance author who writes, just like I said, these like deeply emotional, well-rounded romances, and to read whatever comes next. So like I said, this book is an ARC review, so thank you to Edelweiss and the publisher for my advanced review copy. If you are watching this review the day that it comes out, it will be out tomorrow because I am just getting these reviews out on time. I am trying. So if you watch this review the day after it comes out, this book is out there and you can check it out from your local library or get it from your local bookstore, however it is that you get your books, and be really excited to potentially either read another book from this great author or have a fantastic back catalog to dive into if you like this one. So thank you so much, guys. Really thrilled this one's out on time again. I think that makes, as I check the calendar, all of January that I was on time. Will I continue this in February? We don't know, but I will see you there. Thanks, guys. Stay warm out there. Bye.